All right, we've had a request, not once, but twice for this toolbox topic, so...
Interaction?
Yeah, we're gonna give the public what they want. Let's get on topic. Hey everybody, it's Thomas with Get Out Arizona, and you are watching another fabulous episode of Toolbox Topic. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Brandon Van Leuven. Brandon, how the hell are you?
I'm doing well.
Nah, right on. So you doing a little something with the facial hair this week?
Trying something new.
Right on. It's No Shave November coming up.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Mustache coming back then, huh?
Well, the beard. No Shave November.
All right.
So if you guys remember last year, I had to do a month head start for No Shave November, and Brandon still kicked my butt. It's just one of those things. You can grow that vicious beard. It's a curse. Curse and a blessing all at the same time. So, well, once again, we're at the Trek Bicycle Store of West Phoenix in Goodyear, Arizona, because it's where the cool kids hang out, and me. And today, we're going to be demonstrating how to take a tubeless ready rim and tire set and make it tubeless.
A tubed, make it tubeless.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, but the rim itself is tubeless ready.
Yes.
So you have to have the right rim to be tubeless ready.
Right.
But yes, we actually had a couple people ask for this video, so it's really exciting because that means more people are interacting with the channel. Yeah. So Brandon, give us a brief overview before we switch camera angles and we get into it.
So as we were talking about, the tubeless ready wheel is a whole system.
Right.
That system is comprised of the wheel, which is the biggest expense, the biggest investment. So the wheel has to be tubeless ready, or the rim at least, excuse me. You have to have a tape of some sort. We're going to dive into a couple different things there. A tubeless ready valve, and some kind of sealant, whether it be Bontrager, Stan's, what's this stuff called? Orange seal.
You dislike the orange seal.
I hate orange seal.
Yeah, I love the Stans. I'm a big Stans fan. That's what I use. So.
My favorite is the Bontrager one in this case because it dries up. It's the cleanest one for us to work with. That's the only real reason.
And that's a good reason.
I deal with it all the time. And a tubeless ready tire of your choice. The reason the tubeless ready tire and the rim are so important is because the actual bead of the tire and the rim have the exact same opposite shape. It's like a Ziploc bag. When you get it to seal up, it's actually got a nice little grip, nice little grip on there. Exactly.
I'm trying to refrain, guys. We've been so good for so long. I'm trying to refrain.
We have.
We have. Oh, come on now. We have. Well, no, because we did say tip to tip last time. So okay.
So let's dive into this. So what we have here is a very common thing that Trek does to people. They give you a tubeless ready wheel, but they put an inner tube and a non-tubeless ready tire on there. So you have two ways of going about it. You could either run your current stock tire out on the trail and then go tubeless later on, or you can go ahead and do it right off the bat. I got a nice clean wheel, a nice clean tire here, so we're going to do it right off the bat. We're going to assume that this customer wants to go tubeless day one.
Right.
So
Which you should.
You probably should.
Go tubeless. Stop clinging on to the old ways and go tubeless. Obi-Wan. So before we get too much further though, what's the cost when everything's already, the bike's equipped, but it hasn't been changed over to tubeless? What's the approximate cost? And of course, it depends on what tire you're going to pick.
Tires are super expensive now.
So let's say we go with a Maxxis Ardent like I have. What would it talk about?
You might be looking close to $200 if you do it yourself.
If you do it yourself.
After you put the tires, because tires are almost $100 a piece now in some cases.
It's ridiculous.
So if you got the Ardents, which are about $65, $75 a piece, depending on which version depending on which version you get, then you might be around $250 or so if you do it yourself.
Okay.
If you have it done by a shop, we charge $20 to do the whole setup. Okay. Tape and everything.
Which isn't bad.
No.
And again, you guys know I know how to do this stuff, but just like cleaning my camera sensor, I'm lazy. Okay. And I'd rather have Brandon and his team take care of my bike.
So the first thing we're going to do is remove all the tubed components off of this wheel, which is the tire, the inner tube itself, and the rim strip.
Right. Now, what you guys can do for just trail emergency's sake is you keep one of the tubes, you keep both the tubes, but you take one of the tubes and you put it in your pack. That way, in case you get a gash that the sealant cannot seal up, you take that tube, you stick it in there, and at least you can limp back to your vehicle and everything like that.
As great as tubeless is, I still take a tube with me just in case.
Absolutely.
So we'll put this off to the side. Those are my tubed components right there. It's a non-tubeless ready tire, the inner tube, and every wheel, will have a tape inside there to protect the inner tube from the nipple holes.
Right.
So I'm going to remove the old rim strip as well.
Again, I think one episode we did talk about why all this stuff sounds so phallic. It's because guys named it, okay? And you know what happens when you get a group of men in a room and you're like, all right, come up with names. You get names like nipple hole or ball cock or stop cock for that matter.
Exactly.
So...
I know.
Those are all legit technical terms, though.
I know.
So,
exactly.
All right, continue.
So this is a brand new wheel. Should this have been an older wheel or one that was pre-taped before? I'm going to want to make sure the surface is as clean as possible.
Right.
I'm going to use either high octane alcohol or maybe even another product that we use here.
The Wild West, we're going to dump some bourbon on there to sterilize the wound.
Exactly. Anything we can do, alcohol at the end will be the best thing to evaporate and have a good sticking.
Oh, you know what else is good? Hitting the like and subscribe button. Helps out the channel. Helps out the video.
You got me there.
You got me there. So,
all right.
Okay.
So once we've cleaned this, let me start. First, I'm gonna hold off and just say, if you're using a Bontrager wheel, make sure you use the Bontrager rim strip. This is a plastic piece that snaps into place. It'll avoid the necessity to use tape. It's way easier. This might be the best thing that Trek ever invented, to be honest with you.
And you've said that before.
I love these things. Once they're in, unless you have to change a spoke or something, once they're in, they're in. They never, ever go bad. I've never seen one fail. But if you do use this strip, make sure you do use the Bontrager approved valve, because it does have a shape in it that fits right inside here that's airtight.
Remember, corresponding shapes, guys.
But for...
No, seriously. I mean, it's all about the corresponding shapes.
But
so are we going to add cush cores to this?
We're not going to add cush cores because I hate them.
Brandon hates cush cores too. I couldn't resist.
But most of us are not going to have a Bontrager wheel, so I am going to use tape and show you how that process works.
Awesome.
Today we're going to use whiskey components tape. Okay. This is our favorite tape right now. It's made by, I think it's called Whiskey Components. It has a better...
Whiskey helps, whatever you want to call it. We'll put the actual link down below. How's that sound?
What we like about this one is it's a little more flexible, shall we say, than Stan's tape, or anything else we've used. We've had great reliability.
A little bit more flexibility. It's going to adhere to the shape. It's going to contour itself to the shape.
And some shapes are more aggressive in the center ridge than others, so this helps quite a bit. And to be honest, sometimes we do have to resort to Gorilla Tape, which is even more flexible, but I've had some really aggressive center ridges here that any of these tapes would just bubble up and crease, and it's like, I hate using Gorilla Tape, but sometimes it was a necessity.
Sometimes it's necessary.
So if you have a real deep groove here, you might have to do that. Hopefully not. Hopefully you can use the real deal for that. So again, this is the whiskey tape. And the way I do this is it's going to look a little goofy.
Okay, so we're going to hold on for a second here, because this probably can use a different camera angle.
Okay.
So now, Brandon, I know it's been a hot minute, so you got to do the clap.
I got to clap?
Yep. 3, 2, 1. Okay, now we got the transition. See, it wasn't all that too long.
It wasn't too bad. So I'm going to start with a nice clean piece of tape. What I always do is, if it's a used roll, I'm going to cut off just a couple inches here, because probably it's been exposed to the air and to the dust and stuff already before it was put back. So I'm going to cut off a few inches there so I can start with a nice clean piece. I typically like to start opposite of the valve hole, which is over there. So I'm going to start here. Make sure your first crease, make sure your end starts between the nipple holes. Now, I'm using 27mm tape because this is the widest I have on hand. It looks like this one could probably use 32mm tape. I'd like it to go a little more to the edge, but this will still work just fine.
Okay.
So I'm going to start there. And now what my technique is, I go away from me, and our goal is to have as little or as few creases or bubbles as possible in here. Yeah. So I'm going to start off nice, and then what I use is a clean rag, because what happens is you're going around,
you get a blister on your finger, man.
It pulls the meat away from your nail, and it kills.
I thought you were going to say pulls the meat away from your tip, and then I was going to say, dude, this is really starting to get out of hand.
So I'll start here, try to keep it as lined up as possible, and I'll use this rag
Sorry about the shakiness on the camera angle, guys. My legs are still recovering from Bear Mountain.
And I'm going to keep doing this. This is coming out real nice, right? You see the spots where the nipple holes are, but I have very few bubbles or creases or no creases in this, and I'm going to keep going all the way around.
You might have wished your calling as a friggin' window tinner, Brandon. That's looking pretty good.
Make sure that the strip is as straight as possible. And every time I do this, I'm like, God, where's the end? Every time. Oh, that was a bad spot.
That was a bad spot. It's all right. We can't all be perfect. All birds weren't meant to fly.
Keep this thing nice and tight as you're coming around.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are seeing that really good, what he's doing with the towel and trying to zoom in there so you can really see it's up. And then he's going to push it in there. And see, pushing all those air bubbles out.
And now I'm starting to get tired. Now I'm wondering where the end is.
And this is why Brandon doesn't go hiking with me. I end up leaving him on the trail.
I got a little crooked there, so let's keep this thing straight.
And for those of you old enough to remember, this is what you used to have to do with the waterbed. Get all the air out.
You had a waterbed?
Yeah, I had a waterbed back in the day, dude.
Kinky.
Well, started out young.
Oh, there
it is.
Thank
Yay.
Goodness. So I'm just going to go maybe just a couple inches overlap on there. You should not have to do double.
Right.
Should not have to double up on these things at all. It should be just one round, one layer of tape.
Of course, if you're a jackass like me, you might go around one more time just because.
And I'm fairly pleased with that. Again, we could use a little bit of wider tape, but I'm going to go now once around using the rag again. I'm going to go around the outsides here so that you can see as I come back around that it kind of turns white, or it was white, but now it's that same color as the center groove because I'm getting that adhesiveness really bonded to the rim.
Now, I have to ask this question when we're dealing with adhesives and something like this. Can you use, is there any reason that you would use like maybe a hair dryer or a heat gun on low heat to really get that
I've never seen, I don't think this product is designed to be like shrink wrapped or anything like that. So,
and I was just wondering, is that heat being as a reagent to activate the glue and really make it adhere? So
it's
just
an
curious.
Interesting question, but I've never seen that, and
so the correct answer to that one, guys, is Brandon doesn't know the answer, and sometimes he makes up words, and now he's making up answers. No, I'm joking. But you do make up some cool words.
I do. So that looks pretty good to me.
Yeah. Let's kind of get in there and.
My next step is to put the valve in.
There we go. All right, put that valve in, Brandon.
So we're gonna. In this case, we're using the whiskey tape, so we're going to use a stance type valve.
Okay.
Perhaps your tubeless ready wheel came with its own proprietary valve for that, in which case you can use that, like DT Swiss might have a square end instead of this round one.
Oh, let me get that in focus, guys. Focus. There we go. Maybe, sort of. Okay.
So, this is the one that's most commonly used. This is the stance type valve. Okay. I have a knockoff version here, but it'll work just fine. And we're going to need something pointy. In this case, I have the Park Tool pick. What you could do, what's even a better one that I didn't have, is a sharpened spoke. Works fantastic. Take it to a grinder, make a real nice sharp point to it, and this works good in this case as well.
Nice.
So now I'm going to find where that valve hole is. I'm going to come from the back side.
I'm going to stab it.
And I'm going to make sure I'm centered up in the center here. And I'm just going to make the smallest hole possible. This thing isn't super sharp.
Brandon's shanking it.
So there, the smallest hole I can make possible.
There we go.
Now using my valve, be very cautious here. Just to go slow, because what you don't want to do is rip this tape and create a tear in there. So I'm just going to be very patient. And now my valve is in.
Cool.
Here's the nut. That's going to keep it tight inside there. And when we're doing this, do not use tools for this. Don't use a plier to get this in, because what we want to put this on as tight as you can with your hand,
right?
Which means you can still remove it with your hand. So if you're out on the trail and you do need to replace or put an inner tube in,
yeah,
you can still remove it. So, and it shouldn't really need, if the system is done correctly, you should just need to be pretty snug. It doesn't need to be super tight.
Right.
So I'm going to push this down and seat it down a little bit.
Okay.
And whatever slack's left over, I'm going to tighten up on the back side.
Yeah. There we go.
And now my valve is installed.
Sweet.
Now I'm going to take my tubeless ready tire. This one's a Bontrager XR4 in skin wall. It's a good looking tire.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite tires to use as well. Oh, there's my packaging. Pro tip, we always like to have the label with the valve centered up. Also, make sure your direction is correct for the direct travel. So here's my drive side to my right, and my drive direction is this way. So I'm centering up my valve with the graphics.
Because it's the little things that matter.
Because it's just cool. If you don't do it, you're not. Hopefully this one doesn't make me sweat too much.
Yeah, you've had a fight with a couple of them before. Sons of biscuits.
There's one side.
Now you guys might be wondering, you know, like, channel's not made for kids, but don't need necessarily curse to celebrate cursing every once in a while, but there is nothing wrong with innuendo. Innuendo is great.
One thing that may help if you have a very tight tire is you start from opposite of the valve hole. Pinch the bead to the center of the wheel where you saw that groove, because that'll give us some space. If I pinch it to the center, now I have room, and this one is not going to give me much issues.
Nope.
We're in there.
No, that one really cooperated.
So there's two ways to go now. If you feel like you're pretty good at this and you feel like you're going to be successful the first time, you could have put the sealant in before you seated this up.
Oh yeah, that's sloppy.
What I like to do is...
Let's pull the valve stem.
You want to pull the valve stem?
Well, how are you going to do it? You show people how you're going to do it.
What I'm going to do is just
I have
seat
a
it up
fancy
first.
thing that friggin'...
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're going to seat it first.
So just to make sure my system's holding well.
Oop, here comes the pop.
Seat it up. We should get a couple pops, hopefully. Oh man, this goes on so nice. We're all seated up, no pops. Little disappointing because they can be satisfying.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that pop.
It's seated up just
like the
fine.
shrink wrap. All right.
And in some cases, this will hold just fine for a really long time without sealant in there. Of course, you lack the thorn protection. But what you can do now is...
I'm going to pan around here.
And I'm not going to do this for reals. This will be a simulation because it's all brand new stuff. It's got to go back in the packaging.
Yeah, it does have to go back in the packaging.
So what I would do now is remove the valve core and use now one of these bottles to put your sealant in.
That was actually kind of satisfying.
Now, mind you, this is an empty bottle.
Yep.
But I can now install all my stands in there.
Yep.
The whole bottle. Maybe for the first one, maybe put more in. You can even put 2 in there. I always
put 4 ounces.
Yeah, that's a little more is not a bad thing in our situation here. Reinstall your valve core.
Yep.
And you're ready to air up again, and now you are tubeless. Be aware that all these sealants are going to dry up eventually, so you will have to refresh them. Arizona in the summertime, maybe 2 months you'll get out of it or so.
I do about every 6 weeks in the summertime here, is what I found.
Wintertime's coming up, we might get a little better longevity out of it, but it will eventually dry up.
Yeah.
Now that we have sealant in there and everything, we're going to give it a spin so that sealant can kind of get all over the inside of the tire. When you do have a new setup, you should probably rotate it often that first day just to make sure everything's circulating in there and keeping up all the airtight crevices or the non-airtight crevices. So
give me a transition, Brandon. Oh, that was the clap. You didn't have to do the clap the second time, but that's all right. It'll work. You would think after all this time I'd have him properly trained, guys. But. Okay, so we'll get situated here, and I don't mind you guys seeing this. We're not producing a major Hollywood movie, and it's good for you guys to see behind the scenes and stuff. So, as you can see, it's a process. I wouldn't say it's extremely difficult. I'd say on the difficulty scale from a 1 to 5, I'd say 2, 2.5 if you had a tire that was going to fight you.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's just taking your time, making sure all the bubbles are out of that tape. You know, it's not a race. Some of you guys want it to be every single time you do something, but it's not. Take your time, and you can't go wrong. Yep. So, is there anything else you want to add, Brandon? I think that was pretty comprehensive.
Went smoothly. I think that's everything.
Awesome. All right then. A man of few words, oddly enough. No, joking, guys. All right, so there you have it. One, before we go any further, I do want to thank our subscribers, our viewers, our followers who reached out and suggested this video. We truly appreciate that. We love it. We try to come up with different stuff, and sometimes it's difficult. You know, we get brain locked. Sometimes we got to go back and do stuff over again from like a year or so ago. But when you guys make suggestions like this, we're more than happy to accommodate, because most of them we can. So we really appreciate. And on that note, like, subscribe, bell notification. It's the trifecta. Helps out the video, helps out the channel, and we really appreciate that. There's also going to be some links. First and foremost, Trek Bicycle Store, West Phoenix. If you guys have any question about this video, any of the videos, reach out to Brandon and his crew. All right, seriously, great group of guys and gals. I'd be more than happy to help you. Social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the devil's work, but it's necessary. Follow us. Group hikes, group rides, all kinds of fun stuff, guys, seriously. And we appreciate the support on that front as well. And you're hearing the sirens because we opened up the doors because it's such a beautiful morning. The other links, Hodgepodge, summer affiliate, you know the drill on that one. You're not going to be charged anything extra, but we'll benefit with a small commission. So on that note, what do we say? Be kind to yourself and others. Be amazing stewards on that trail, Brandon. Okay. And we have to ask, what are you waiting for?
Get out of Arizona.
Yeah. We'll see you on that next adventure. Take care, everybody. Brandon, thank you so much. Once again, we'll see you next week.